say tech like engineering. You need to, let's start with technology. You need to understand, define what to build, but if you don't know how to build it, you're not going to understand product management. You're not going to understand level of effort. You're not going to understand setting expectations for your senior leadership. On the business side, if you don't know what customers are asking for and you can't translate those into real requirements, you're not building a product that's going to ship, or you're not building a product that's going to fit the market. And then on the user experience side, if you don't know what the user exactly wants and you misinterpret it, it's going to go out to market and you might position it perfectly, message it perfectly, until you use it. And you have to really understand all three. You have to have expertise in one, and you should be passionate about all three, right? Because your product is getting out in front of the users. So a little bit of PM's role on a team, and kind of based on my experiences, what I've seen. A lot of people say, you're like the CEO, so you're a team leader. You help set the cadence of the vision. You come up with a roadmap. You figure out you make sure everyone understands the founder's vision is most important, right? You're working with the CEO themselves. You're typically not working much with the CEO stuff. You're looking at the vision. You're saying, listen, I'm going to convert your vision to actual products and actual strategy, and we're going to take this company forward. You're taking a lot of meeting notes and stuff like that. Next is brainstorming effectively. It's important. You're going to be in a lot of meetings. So ability to take everything you learn from these meetings and transcribe them and send out meeting notes is very important. Ability to get a group of people and define services, operations, marketing, you have sales, development in one room, and being like, all right, guys, what's important to you? And being able to prioritize off of it. That's where you kind of really learn a lot of those techniques like the prioritization matrix and stuff like that in a traditional product development tool like Airbox. And finally, you're managing product operations. Things break, it's you who's on the line, and they're going to come straight to you. They're not going to go to engineering, because engineering is going to understand the technical side. They're not going to understand why we build something. The goal is to help them understand, but they care more about innovative things on the engineering side. So how do you define product management? There's a very common product management that I follow, and he kind of said a PM helps their team ship the right products to their users. So starting with help your team, right? You're working with coordination, you're ensuring everyone's planning, everyone's making decisions and working together. And this goes back to when I say a lot of people think that CEO, a product manager is the CEO of their product or the owner. I think that's, over prescribing kind of influence and authority to the product manager. The product manager is there to kind of get teams together, be able to work collaboratively. And the most efficient product management or teams in general I've seen is where the product manager isn't like, I own this product, whatever I says goes. It's more like, all right, guys, this is what I'm seeing in the market. Help me out from the engineering end. Help me out from the marketing end. What are you seeing? That's one thing. Next thing is communication. Very, very important in product management. Everyone needs to understand really what you are trying to build, but also understand the requirements, why you're trying to build it, business justifications, or the acceptance criteria, and kind of like that. So if you work when I worked at the city group, we had all these crazy business requirements documents, product requirements documents. I mean, they were just pages and pages of, in my opinion, crap. You really don't need a lot of that. I think that's just going too much into it. But you do need a set of tools and a set of templates that you kind of use that get your point across. And it's important to know that the company's focus is your focus, really. And this is very important in a startup because you want to get out and make sure you are following the founder's vision. Next thing is, helping your company. So shipping versus perfection. I think shipping is more important than perfection. If you wait for that perfect day, it's never going to happen type of thing. You just got to ship a good product. You make sure you did enough, and that's why iterative development is very, very big in technology companies and product management. Agile and stuff like that. No one uses waterfall anymore. Not that I know. Understand your company's goals, and this is where it gets a little tricky, right? Sometimes when you're in a smaller company, the founder wants to do a little bit of everything, and it's your job to kind of figure out everything that the founder's thinking, all the conversations he's having. He's always fundraising, talking to investors, pitching what he's promising, and kind of converting it and making sure that these goals and objectives are easily understood by all the teams, and how it kind of fits, how your roadmap fits into everything. And align the goals and metrics with the company strategy. So along with the founder's vision, there's a strategy for what we're going to do this year, what we're going to do next year, what's our short-term, mid-term, long-term strategy in the way. And prioritization. I think that's one of the biggest things for product managers, kind of like that. So next is, ship. You want to deliver products to users in the end, right? You don't want to just keep building, and then it's like, yeah, I'm never going to deliver anything. And it's your job as a product manager to keep that aligned. And you always want to be testing and kind of like trying out different products. As a product manager, you should be on your website at least once a day. Just looking at different competitors, what they do, I subscribe on my RSS feed to most of my competitors' ecosystems to see what they're releasing and be on top of it. And understand clear goals and objectives, because at the end, let's say you have a product enhancement coming out for the entire team and you understand the goals and objectives. You guys can do a trade-off. Be like, hey, listen, we don't really need this because we know the ROI on this, it's not going to kill us. Let's release, let's get out right now. And finally, the right product. So PMs have a tricky job in kind of aligning, getting it right and getting it out the door kind of thing. And you want to create innovative solutions, but at the same time, you want to make sure it's the right product and it solves the right user need. And that's where a lot, the greatest part about product management to me comes out is talking to the customers, getting out in front of the customers, going to conferences and stuff like that. And then getting a sense from the founders and other leaders, kind of what they feel is right and how to make sure that the product is correct. And a lot of the times, senior leadership is important in taking product decisions because they talk to a lot of senior leaders in other companies and big enterprise relationships like that, which are defining next year, and that is a product that aligns with them as well. Listen to feedback, very important kind of thing. And then measure whether the product ship is right. So a lot of KPIs. Are users using my product, are they using the feature, and moving from there. So finally, I promise I'm almost done with this, and then we'll go into what I actually do every day. So for the users, make sure you articulate the use cases. Why are you building it? Is it aligned with user needs? And be an advocate for the users. You're going to have a lot of internal folks, especially engineering and concepts. No, I don't think they need this. And you're the one who's like, yeah, they do. They've told me they want exactly this, and this is what we're going to build. Especially on engineering side, we're like, oh, this is too complex. Let's go build plan B because it's cooler. Like, it's a new technology that they use. And it's kind of your job to work with everyone, make sure, be like, hey, this is what, this is all coming from the business side, this is how it's working. And understanding your target user. When you're in the product management role, you really have to spend time with clients. There should be some clients that, they're on your phone book. So you're texting them, you're calling them. I have some people that I talk to almost weekly, just be like, hey guys, when they're coming, especially when you're a global team, they're coming to New York, they should be hitting you up for dinner and stuff like that. And it kind of goes back to shipping and perfection. A good product today is better than a perfect product tomorrow. You wait, you'll never ship, and you'll never really get out there. So, to really the big thing, what is my typical day? In product management, my day varies day to day. It's never the same, and no week is the same either. Yeah, I'll have my agile meetings, sprint planning, sprint estimation, but in the meetings that aren't set, it's very different. So typically my day looks like this. I try to get to the office early just because a lot of the teams, and especially on the engineering side, before we start to stand up and everything. And it's great because I get some time to really be focused. So I'd start off at 9 o'clock where I review the work. A lot of it's like looking at burn down charts and seeing how we're progressing through the sprints, and also organizing for the day. What do I need to do? So typically I have two sets of tasks. In my email, we use Gmail. So in Gmail, you can add certain emails to tasks. I use that to keep a track of who I need to respond to. And I use another plugin called Momentum in Chrome to kind of keep track of more internal product-related tasks. And that's what I do really between 9 and 10 to align everything what I need to do for the day, when I need to respond to, and stuff like that. Then we have our daily stand-up, which is usually 15 to 20 minutes, not too much longer. When you're in a big organization, you'll learn a lot about the agile methodologies in the product school, but when you're in a big organization, you have small And then at 10:30, I go through my product matrix. So this is really my biggest prioritization tool. Like, you have a bunch of features and a bunch of big product ideas you want to do. And you have kind of like weights and across different criteria that you set against, which are related to sales, which are related to strategic importance and stuff like that. So you'll learn a lot. You learn a lot of that also through product school. And then this is on this day I have a one-on-one with my CEO, really just going over what he's been doing, he's been on the road, fundraising, we've talked to investors, and kind of giving them an update about what I've been doing, how the product's doing, what we're thinking about, some of the new market insights I've gotten. Kind of really draw it out with him, and I try to keep it to an hour because it seems like a long time. Every week it happens, but there's just a lot of things that come up. Then I typically would go to lunch. Sometimes I eat at my desk. But typically, at least once a week, I try to go meet other product managers who I've met and networked with and try to just meet up and lunch with them. Because it's important to see if they're in a different industry or they're in a different company. What are they doing? What are the problems they run into? And stuff like that. It's just nice, you know. A lot of, especially tech companies, if they're more like small to mid-size, not like Series A kind of funding, but they'll actually take legit expenses, so it's always nice. They're like, I want to go out, go talk to them. It's more networking. Then in the afternoon, I try to meet today, at least this day, I would meet the VP of engineering and kind of talk to him about more high-level stuff. We already had our daily stand-ups on our day to day. More high-level, what we should be looking out for is someone on vacation, especially when you have a team of only like 5 to 10 engineers, and you only have 2 JavaScript developers, and you're like, crap, he's on vacation, we're not going to be able to do anything fun and related this week. This is probably what Thursday for me, a few weeks ago. Somewhere. I mean, obviously, I don't plan out a day like this. I did this for you guys. Otherwise, I'm crazy. So I want to talk a little bit about special days, and these are the days I really like because it's a lot of just big meetings, so big picture thinking. Right? So I'm just brainstorming and figuring out what the long-term thing is. One of the things that might come up to me is, all right, what's our mobile strategy? Are we going to go into mobile this year, or are we going to go into mobile next year? What's coming out in mobile advertising? What's new? Another thing might be, should we expand internationally? I know a lot of that, it seems like the CRO and the CEO will be responsible, but from a product standpoint, it's important for them to understand too. Hey, we can't expand internationally because we don't have any international languages that we can support right now. And if we want to do that, we've got to build some models around it, so we need a data set. Next is product feature. I guess it's sort of, I don't use it. I think it's short term. Doing the roadmap, doing six different products we have, or maybe something else on the shiny products we have. And so that's what I probably at least 1% will be good. And then demos and training sessions. This is the most important one. You ship a product, it's not going to get used unless you demo it properly or use training. And that's where this gets very important. These sessions happen very frequently, only because you'll soon realize that sales are not very tech savvy. So when you explain something to them, you have to keep explaining it a few times, and they're going to ask you the same question in 5 different forms, and it's going to be the same answer. Eventually they'll get it, but it takes a while. So now let me show you a little bit about my week and how it's kind of like. This was, I think, the week or 2 before Thanksgiving. Yeah. And so I had some of the meetings, I added in just so you guys can see. Blue is more internal, just it's like we're speccing and thinking and brainstorming. The green is internal meetings with the team, whether it's on services or whatever. Yellow is more on sprint-related activities, like agile-related activities. And then red is kind of client meetings that I go to. So as you can see, it varies a lot, and that's the great thing about product management. And I've spent time, on the finance side and other roles, and I'm just like, I like product management as a variety. You're working with each different team and you get more. And you're working on products where you keep enhancing them, where you start working on different side of the products. So maybe you move from video to mobile, or mobile to programmatic. What I like, enjoy most about it. You're talking to clients, you're building a network, you're learning from other people. When I go out to a meeting with Google, for instance, they're one of our vendors, and they're telling me new things that are coming out, and new things. And I'm just like, oh, now I see how you guys are planning to kind of incorporate this into the AdWords or EDM tech stack. Or if I'm going out to the agency, I want to see what the agencies are thinking, because as a product manager, you have a good idea for something. You're not the only one that's going to generate ideas. You're going to come up with ideas, and your team's going to help you kind of ensure those ideas. But you should be the one that's developing a lot of new ideas. So you'll learn a lot about agile methodologies, sprint review, retrospective. What is that? What do we do there? What is backlog grooming? What is the product backlog grooming? What is the estimation and stuff like that? It's fun, and we have a good time at those times. Typically when we do a release, we like to go out for happy hour at the end of the day and take the team out and be like, sometimes we do the retrospectives after 6, so we can all do it at a bar. So it really depends on where you're working, what team you're working on. So kind of to take back, I showed you my day, kind of showed you my week. To take back and look at really daily basis, what do I do? And a lot of it's strategic planning. And that's why, as a product manager, it's important to know business, it's important to know market, it's important to know tech, it's important to know design, what you want. Because you have to plan strategically what you want to release, when you want to release it, why you want to release it. You have to justify why we should invest in something with the ROIs. Next is also project management. Not every company will have a scrum master or an actual project manager who's going to help and make sure that engineering teams align. Especially in an agile environment where you're working with development day to day, you're going to be spending a lot of time with engineers, and it's your job to make sure we're on track to release. It's your job to set estimations and deadlines, timelines for senior management. You're accountable for it. If you set an estimation to release something at the end of November, unless something big comes in where the CR was like, hey, listen, we have a $10 million deal, we got to get this feature out. Then at that time, we let them know, listen, we get this feature out, we're going to push that end of November to mid-December. But it's your job to kind of communicate on that. And that's where it comes to communicating with senior leaders. You really have to make sure that you are being as explicit as possible, saying that, hey, listen, this is going to work, it's not going to work, being as detailed as possible. And as long as you say, when it comes down to it, at the end, it's like, CRO's like, yeah, you never told me this. Like, yeah, I did tell you this. You just didn't feel like understanding or hearing it. Talking to customers, very, very important. You have to be really open to doing that. And that's what I love doing on a daily basis is talking to different people and kind of like passing time that way sometimes. And it's not always about work, it's about other things too. And it kind of gets your head going and thinking, all right, these guys are thinking this way too, so should we potentially down the road think about feature C? User testing, very important. if you're gonna release, if you're the product manager or something, and when it gets released at the end of the sprint cycle, you better know how to test it. A lot of product managers, well, not a lot, but a few product managers I ran across, they release something, they never test it, nor do they know how to test it. And I think that's very bad, because it's gonna go out into the market, and then you're gonna start getting bugs that come back to you. And then a lot, it's like, hey, there's no reliability in anything you do about these. And then a lot of senior leaders are gonna be like, yeah, it's not gonna come out. We should, even though it's gonna release end of November, we've known that typically his products come out with a lot of issues, so let's aim for January and stuff like that. You don't want that kind of statement. Data analysis. It's important to take all kinds of data you have, all kinds of product, right? You make sure it's working and stuff like that. And that's on a daily basis. You're thinking that in internal meetings. You're going to be in meetings a lot. That's one of the ways you can have meetings. Friends tell me, please do. I'm like, yeah, it looks like I'm in meetings all the time. But you're going to be sometimes taking that work home and finishing that spec right before you go to sleep because all day just went to 6 hours of meetings. After 6 hours of meetings, you're pretty drained. So I'm going to go home, eat dinner, and then figure out the rest of the stuff. And the greatest thing I love about product management is every day is different. I really won't see a day where it's the same. Or typically, there's days where you have a lot of downtime, where you have things you can knock out. It's kind of like your job will also have its own backlog that you just keep kind of doing. Never going to get to them all. That's a good sign too, because that just means your product is, your company's doing well, your product is maturing. As long as things keep getting wrapped up, you're going forward. So, daily challenges I come across kind of in product management, lack of resources. So every company kind of has this. Even when I worked at Citigroup, we had that resource issue because there's only so many people who can put on it, so much time we can put on it. In startups, it's even worse because you have 2 engineers that need to build out an entire platform. And it's deciding, okay, should we build out the campaign management piece, or do we build out the reporting piece, or what do we build out? Internal processes. So when you work in tech product management, client services, right? They're doing a lot of manual work. I mean, when you first start off in a tech company, especially if they're less than 50 people, you're going to have client services working off Excel files. And they're always going to be like, hey, can't we get this into the platform? Can we build a more automated solution for this? Because they're also working long hours, and it's a lot about managing expectations. You want continuous improvement, but you don't want to get to a point where you keep enhancing a specific product feature when then you just stop innovating, because innovation takes a lot of resources. It takes almost 3 months worth of engineering work in order to come out with a brand new product. So those are the challenges we run into. Complications. The more features you add, the more complex your product gets, the more issues that come out that you've never seen, all the edge cases that come out of it. And so it's important understanding this and how you kind of get around it. And a lot of times, product managers like pulling hair out, and you just have to be a little calm, just figure it out. You just have to take a deep breath and be like, all right, we ran into this issue, we're not going to ship it. This customer's not going to be happy. How do you deal with it? You go talk to the customer, or you go talk to the engineering team and be like, all right, you know what, screw this other feature, we're going to go all in on this one. And finally, prioritization. I think I've mentioned this a few times now. It's so important to prioritize. Not only your own time, but also what you want to do with the product, or what you want to do with the roadmap and everything like that. So one of the things I did want to talk about is small versus big company. Corporations provide support, they provide structure, startups provide autonomy, they provide flexibility. Corporations, I feel, are plagued by bureaucracy and rigidity. Startups are chaotic. So in a way, this picture I thought was good because both have its own hurdles in product management, and both have similar fundamentals. You can take a lot of the principles of product management, but how they're done and to what extent you use each of the principles is different. And it's sort of you kind of define your own way. You define product management. You see, hey, is there prioritization matrix important for me, or is there another way I can do it? Typically, in a small company, you won't do it as much because you only have a set of 10 features you want to move forward. In a big company, you're releasing things maybe once a month or once every 3 months, where you're going to have a bunch of things that you need to prioritize. Probably estimation is huge. You're releasing very also varies, depends on what kind of startup you're in and stuff like that. The other thing is, in startups you get more choice than what you do. In corporations, I feel like when I was working at Citigroup, it's kind of done for you. You don't really have the strategy component, and I really enjoy the strategy component. I like to think, why should we expand into a different, product? For instance, expanding into mobile. Why is mobile important? I don't want to be told that mobile is important, just get it out. That's what we want to do. I guess when you mature into it as a product manager, you get experience and stuff. You start thinking a lot, and as you get experience, it helps. And finally, one of the questions is, what makes a great PM? I think there is average PMs, I think there's some bad PMs, I think there's some really good ones. I'm still learning, I learn every day, and I have mentors that teach me, I screw up all the time, so that's always good. Technically capable, I'm not saying you have the right code, I'm saying you should understand the tech stack. You should really understand, level of effort. If you don't understand the tech stack, you can't gauge level of effort. You can have the CEO, or CRO, or senior manager just asking questions left and right, being like, hey, why can't we do this feature? They don't want to see you running back and forth with the engineering team, being like, hey, why can't we do this feature? Oh, because the database can't support the database, we don't have a highly distributed file system, so we're working on Postgres, and there's only a limit to it. Next thing is, strategically oriented. A lot of people tell me that they see, or just earlier I was talking to someone, so I see a lot of finance consulting people going to project management. It's because in consulting you're really taught to think strategy, think big picture and stuff, and it's very important, to think down the road, how is this going to affect it? Do you build something, do you invest more time into it so that down the road when you want to expand to size B, you can do it efficiently, or you just build an MVP, basically a hack, and just get it out the door. Those are the things that we think about. Constantly communicating, so you've always got to be talking to people. Basically, across the whole organization, you are going to either be the most well-liked person or one of the more hated people. The former is always better. So it's your job not only to get teams involved in decision making, but it's your job to kind of close the ups every single team, like client services, marketing, and stuff like that. Because when you're in an organization that has 10 different product managers, you're going to be fighting for resources, you're going to be fighting for attention, and you're measured by the success of your product. The product's making $50 million a year. You can go out and boast about that, but if it's not doing anything, and you ship the product, and it's crap, and it doesn't work, and it comes up with issues, that's going to look down too. At least be something in your arsenal to take to senior manager to show that you want more responsibility, you want to get out more, you want take on this new innovative product, these emerging products. Marketing awareness. This is important. You don't need to be a marketing genius. I read a couple marketing books. They were interesting. I'm not per se the best person at messaging and positioning at times. I work with an awesome product marketing person, so I've been lucky. But you should know marketing and how to get out there. How do clients want to see this? How are they going to use it and stuff like that? And finally, a lot around problem solving. So you don't have to per se just solve problems all the time, but you should understand the principles of problem solving. A lot of people when they start with coding boot camps, they're just lost. They're like, why doesn't this work? And they're always banging their head against the wall. And the reason that some people it comes naturally to and some people it doesn't is because some people think about it, they take a step back and reverse engineer. And so a lot of product management is like that. You're running into issues all the time, you're gonna have headaches all the time. But it's thinking back and being like, all right, how do we solve this and stuff like that. And that's what makes you better every day, and that's what gives you new challenges every day. So I don't really have much more to add. I kind of want to keep enough time so we can open up the floor and just ask questions, talk, give me a conversation. And I found this picture and I thought it was cool. The mental state of a product manager is literally like that. When you're juggling 3 or 4 different products, you're running around, you keep things intact. Documentation, a product manager is very important for. And that's the reason for it. You don't want all the specs in your head because no one's going to understand it first. What you say and what you see are 2 different things. And number 2, you're going to forget it, guaranteed. Go for it. Yeah.
So, as someone who's a business guy, when you say technical capable, can you expand on what that means? And what level is the right amount of technically capable to have?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm not a developer. my background, I used to be a developer back in like '05, '06, '07. I haven't touched development since then. I forgot how to code. Basically, I can look at code and be like, all right, what's this? If else, I know what it does. If this is true, then it's going to do this. Otherwise, it's going to be able to read those simple statements. You have to understand what I personally think at times you should understand. Why do you want why do you want a highly distributed database? What's the benefit of that? And a lot of that you don't need to know going into product management. You learn as you pick up over the years, talking with engineers and stuff like that. And when you're asking a question, maybe you have another question that you can ask. You just have to be able to easily understand technically why engineers choose certain things, or why should we go in one route, not the other. Coding, I think, is not as important. If you know, like, I'd say if you take a Coursera course, like an intro to programming, it's good enough. And same with on the business side, not everyone's business oriented, and if you just take like a basic intro to, there's like a business strategy course, that's fine. And you learn a lot about through that, through product school itself. I know Carlos is a great guy, he's got a great curriculum too. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this today, is because I feel like there's a lot of product schools. I've seen the General Assembly product schools, I've seen people that come out of it. They're very different, and I'm more of a problem-based learner. I can put 500 slides here, and we can go 3 weeks just teaching you it. But you might know it in the moment, but when you go out to the industry and you try to feel it, and then you're going to be like, shit, how should I go about this? And a lot of it's got to be like, all right, hey guys, this is the problem we have today. Why don't you guys go solve it and see what you come up with? That's what product management is coming up with your own solutions that work for you to figure out what's the most efficient solution.
How did you transition from development into product management?
So I never worked as a developer. I had my own company, so we developed that. And truthfully, I transitioned from finance to product management, and I actually didn't know what product management was or product was. I never went into this high level of product management. And just like, you know what, I like this. It's like, this is cool. I like working with people, especially a lot of different types of people. I like thinking on the business side. I like thinking on the tech side. Converting ideas into requirements and stuff. There was no real transition for me. That's why it's important to know, like, typically anyone can get into product management. You just have to have the fundamentals and principles. And once you do, they'll start clicking. It's like, hey, I want to build this app. But then your first question should be, do people want this app? You can go out and build it and waste time if you're an engineer, waste a couple weekends building an app. But it's like, you should be sitting outside and talking to users in Madison Square Park. Like, hey, what do you think? Can I take 2 minutes from you? What do you think of this app? Would you use it? Here's a fake mock-up. What do you think? Would you pay for it? Would you pay right now? Would you pay me $5? Not like that. Yes.
You mentioned that one of the challenges of actually working in a company with, say, a lot more product managers is actually competing for talent, for engineering and design talent. And the way to do that is to try to build rapport with a lot of the people from those departments. When you just get started, how do you actually do that?
So when you get started, I would say the first thing is cozy up to engineers, because a lot of times engineers, I've heard in the past, once they don't like a product manager, because a product manager doesn't get to know them and spend time with them and really understand them. And I think that's important. And then on the other side, also sales is very important, right? They're the reason that can help push your product through. If they show that, listen, we're going to sign a $5 million deal with this, we get this product out, and that's very important. A lot of it's around just, being friendly with everyone, talking to everyone, helping them understand. As a product manager, you have to have market insights. And a lot of your time, especially in the first 90 days of a role, should be just reading every single blog there is about your company and that industry. You should know the LumaScape inside and out. That way, when you get asked a question by sales and you know the answer on the dot, they'll be like, oh, that's awesome. And when you join sales calls and you get questions from clients like, hey, doesn't this client also already do this? And you should be answering, no, they actually don't. They actually just offer a product as a discovery tool. We actually help it so that it's actionable. Kind of like that.
Are there a lot of differences between product management for internal systems versus out in the market?
Yeah, there's a lot of differences. I mean, it depends on the kind of product manager you want to be and what kind of product you want to. There's internal product managers, there's technical product managers, there's product strategy. I like more product strategy and stuff like that. really, if you're starting in product management, you won't get thrown into it. Because product strategy is more around how much of the market you know and how much that you kind of spend time in it. You start off more so internal, like building the tools and stuff. Not internal tools per se, but you'll have less client exposure. And as time goes on and you build the opportunities, that's when things will open up and a lot more opportunities. So there is, for instance, there is product development side where you're just focused on talking to engineers and stuff like that. And you're more of a product owner and you're working with a product strategist who kind of owns multiple products and they're the ones who are client focused. It really depends on how mature or how big the engineering org is or how the company is. It doesn't happen all the time. It's really open to it. So. Yes.
Yeah, coming from the business side, when recruiting for a product management position, what would you highlight in your resume or your cover letter in order to get a job?
I think one of the biggest things you would highlight is the principles, like for instance, how do you take a product to, how do you package it and ship it? That's one. And packaging is how you build a product. How do you come up with user requirements? What did you do in your last role that's related to this? And a lot of that you learn in this program as well, I think. And that's what's the good thing about it. Once you can kind of be able to tell that, every role I think everyone's done here is somehow product related. You've done an aspect of product management. It's a matter of how you're going to package yourself and make the hirer recruiter know. Listen, you know product management fundamentals. You've done a piece of it.
So, I come from the social practice. Can you speak up?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, so I'm more of a social background. In terms of me as a learner, I looked like a friend who actually taught me not how to code, but how to hire a team. How to hire a team. That's what I need. It's one of the courses that I had to 2 years to get myself to the now, coming from my background, based on the fact that I never went to school coming up, I never went to I had no high school tech schools, or never been on college tech schools. How can somebody myself and themselves
Definitely. I think one of the things you have to realize is I've never once been asked about what my degree is or where I went to school or anything like that. If I left it out on my resume, no one would even notice. It's showing that you're technically capable of being a product manager. If you think about the business side of things, when you go into interviews, you have to be taught that you're going to research this company, research your competitors, start talking. That's all they care about. If you can teach them one thing, I promise you the hiring manager is going to be impressed. He's like, oh, we actually didn't know that the competitor did this, and this is how they did it. Then it's going to show your technical capabilities, one. Two, it's going to show how you thought about it and how you gathered requirements for it. Then three, you can talk a little bit about how you go about building that feature out, how you work with teams to do it. And you basically prove that you have the chops to make it as a product manager. Obviously, starting out, you're not going to go, for an interview for a role that's requiring 5 to 7 years of product management experience, and it's a senior product manager role. It's just not going to happen. You're going to start off, and then you're going to build from that. And it's possible from, I think, every industry. As long as, once you understand the principles, once you understand the fundamentals, then going into product management, it becomes almost any job opportunity, a lot of opposition. Why do you see history majors as I-bankers? It's not because they know finance. It's because, one, they were able to position themselves as valuable.
I'm gonna just piggyback on something you said. Even if the job is required 5 to 7 years, most product management job descriptions I've seen when I've just been browsing around on the web, they require some amount of experience. The question is, how do you get experience without experience? And what do you do in lieu of experience that would be accepted by the
Are you talking straight out of school experience, or are you talking more like I did something else, it wasn't product management, and then I got 3 years of experience, and then I want to get into product management?
Okay, let me put it this way. I'm a senior financial analyst with 7 years of experience, 8 years of experience. Not in product management, but in working.
Yep.
Does that translate at all?
So it can, right? As a financial analyst, a lot about you know a lot about ROI, you know a lot about looking at numbers, you know what's going to be profitable, what's not, sales strategy, and that's all for product management. And now what you need to understand is how does the whole product life cycle, how can you translate that and be like, listen, I understand this. I can talk to my my back office, and this is how they do it. This is what their methodology are, and stuff like that. And so when you kind of go on an interview and talk about things like that, they'll just be like, okay, you've been really involved on both the front office and the financial office, but also the back side, and you guys are creating your own tools. And that kind of helps them. Granted, like you may have 7 years of experience as a financial analyst, will you get a 7-year or plus requirement like director level role? Maybe, maybe not. It really depends on how much your job when you're in a interview is proving to them that you understand the market, understand what their product does. You can pitch it to them if you need it to on the spot, and that comes from background research. And then a little bit, they're going to look at your resume, and you're going to be like, yeah, I've done product related work. This is what I've done.
Piggyback off that clarification, what if you had just graduated from college, or who were hired by the
So in that sense, a lot of it's been project-oriented work that you've done. So they're going to be looking for, okay, what did you work on? What was your senior design project? Or show me that you've worked in product management. Typically, you start as an associate product manager, so you'll have someone that's going to teach you the ropes. And when you have fundamentals, you stand down from other people, right? When you start talking about agile methodologies and what's in a retrospective, and you understand how 2 week sprints work, what the daily standard is, what's involved in the daily standard, what questions you ask, how to get all that out. Let's use your story. When you understand all that, you're talking to them for a junior role. They're going to be like, okay, this person is already well trained.
I noticed that you're definitely using Gmail and tasks and a lot of other tools like that, but what are some of the tools that you really just can't live without in your day-to-day work? Like if you didn't have it, you would just collapse.
I use a lot of I open up a lot of different instances of text edit. I just like to take notes on that because project manager, you're taking a lot of notes. Every meeting you're in and stuff. I make it a thing that every Friday I will send to the entire, all the meetings I've been in and all the notes associated with them. They'll be one sentence long, and then if you have questions, they'll ask me. But yeah, text edit is probably one of them. My phone is out there. I don't ever use a desk phone, so if any of my clients call, a lot of my clients that have talked to me more than once, no, never calls text desk phone. They'll just call my cell phone or text me. I'm always available. Like, you want to reach me? That's where you'll reach me. So, that's really it. I like the task list and stuff like that, but I could just as easily use email to do that. I could just set myself all the tasks via email. It just helps me it saves time doing all that, just have the tasks being able to cross them off that way. I used to use sticky post-it notes on my desk, but then I realized I don't really spend so much time on my desk, and I'm like, I keep having to walk back. I spend a lot of time in like conference rooms and stuff, so. Yes?
You mentioned your relationship with the CEO and then the CRO. Is that Chief Risk or Chief Revenue?
Chief Revenue Officer.
Okay, but you didn't really mention your CTO or CIO. What is your relationship with?
Yeah, definitely. So in my current company, right, we don't have a CTO, but VP of engineering. But typically, you would talk to the CTO too. When I was at, let's say, Nexus, the CTO was more, you would talk to them like once a quarter. They were more what are we going to do? What's our roadmap? Stuff like that. That happens every quarter. I would talk to the lead engineer on the team. Then if it's like more of a back end engineer, a lot of this we talk to engineers. And it depends how big the organization is.
Do you ever butt heads with them, given your background?
So I don't get involved in their side because I know I'm gonna be wrong. Some of these engineers are brilliant, and they're just gonna, basically stomp all over me. So when I do butt heads, they'll overestimate things, and I've gotten to the point from experience and also kind of a background in development that, okay, these guys are just like adding a lot of padding to it. And once you get comfortable, and especially when I join a new company, the first 90 days, I won't be actually assigning them work and stuff like that. I'll be kind of learning from the team and seeing what their velocity is and stuff like that. You'll learn a lot of that in the curriculums in product school or anywhere else, where you have to really learn to gauge a team's velocity. You have to see how fast they develop work and how fast they do it. And within the first 3 months, you'll start gauging that a little bit. So then you'll know the level of effort and you'll know how much work is going to get done in the next 3 months. It's not always going to be perfect, but that's fine, right? If you're in agile, what they say is as long as you reach 70% of your total work, it's fine. That's pretty good. That's actually really good. So,
Piggybacking off of her question regarding, say, butting heads with some of the lead engineers, do you have any stories or anecdotes in which you've actually had that happen that had to get past that, or perhaps managing conflict with people on your team?
I don't really have any stories offhand, to be honest, where we really butted heads. Because a lot of times when we do butt heads, it's more like, hey, I want to use Cassandra. I'm like, okay, why not Vertica? And that's like the biggest. Typically, a lot of engineering leads and stuff will not focus on why we're deciding to build a product or a feature. It might be around, all right, we could do it this way, and I'll be like, all right, why does this way make sense? And that's how it is. Where I butted heads is with a CTO, and a lot of it's because of resources, or not just a lack of resources, but also how much resources get done and how good they are. So sometimes I ran into engineers where, I've had an engineer that says I code once a week. I'm like, what are you doing here now? You shouldn't be an engineer. And that's where I butt heads. I'm just like, what are you doing in 4 days? He's like, yeah, I'm just thinking. Like, and he's a brilliant dude. A good friend, but he's brilliant. Probably one of the best engineers I've met. He just codes once a week. Now, granted, his once a week is probably equivalent to like 3 or 4 days of most people. Alright, so you want to? No. Oh, okay. More questions? Yeah, go for it.
So typically at like early stage startups, founders or CEOs are the ones who are defining the product requirements. So have you ever come into a situation where you had to deal with that?
Yeah, right now, right? Open slate. We're 14 people, 14 hired. Now we're 23 on board. So expanding. Founders used to control. He's used to just defining everything, telling people what to do and stuff like that. And it's my job to come in, and we have weekly meetings, and it's my job to say, listen, this is not, just because you had a meeting with the head of some agency and they want to do this, doesn't mean they'll actually do it. And so we butt heads still, but at the end, that's where the product manager's responsibility is kind of also covering for their teams, right? It's your job if something comes up, you're not going to blame the engineer. Once you blame the engineer, you're going to be on their shit list. They're not going to like you. So it's your job to kind of manage all these expectations. And that's why the CEO brought you on, right? It's to kind of level the playing field. The CEO just wants to move, and it doesn't always happen that way. The CEO might be thinking one product and another product, but you got to first control the first product. Yeah, I've run into a lot of things where sometimes I'm left out of key meetings, and something I get an email saying, hey, can we get this into the pipeline? I'm just like, no. I just respond back to no, because my thing is you draw me on to be more, kind of be like the top. No one else knows how that first one. Everyone's like, yeah, we just do kind of what he says, and I'm like, okay, well, it's my job to know it. The CEO is not going to bring in a product manager who doesn't have experience in the market and stuff like that. And that's where the CEO has to respect you and your knowledge and your intellect and your kind of edge knowledge. Once that happens, it kind of goes back and forth. And eventually, one thing I've noticed just going from big companies to small is the smaller you get, the more control they have. But when a CEO truly learns to let go of some of that control, that's when you really start moving to.
Thanks, Robin. Brad, and I lead admissions with Product School. We help individuals transition from software engineers, UX designers, consultants into product managers in our 8-week course. And if you have any questions about that or any questions for Ravi, please feel free to hang around, meet the people that you've been sitting with for the past hour, have some beverages and some snacks. And then I think we have to be out of here at 8:30, but until then, feel free to mingle and hang out. Thanks again for coming. Thanks, Ravi.